So let's go and talk about the new shiny hunting method that was recently discovered in Pokemon Sun and Moon. So I guess the best way of describing this is that it's comparable to the 6th generation time machine method, and something that you might have noticed while just playing the game normally. That if you forget to save your game and you reset and then you go and hatch some eggs, well, you get these same Pokemon in the eggs because the eggs have predetermined stats and values and stuff. What actually goes deeper in that you can actually swap out the parents and then have those eggs represent the Pokemon that would have hatched anyways, thus giving you the chance to kind of customize the Pokemon that you want. Well, recently it was discovered that with the Masuda method and or the Shiny Charm, you can actually customize this for shiny Pokemon. Now, the reason why I didn't make a video until now is because I thought this was actually like a bad thing, that the way that people were blowing up about it on Twitter and social media and talking about it, it sounded like an illegal method or some kind of glitch to obtain these Pokemon, but it really isn't. This doesn't modify shiny values. This doesn't modify the game in any way, and it's not really a true exploit, as in like a forbidden or illegal manipulation of the game in any way. That this seems pretty legitimate, and it does take a lot of work to do, so it does balance out. The idea, though, is that instead of taking a long time to go through all the eggs that it would take to hatch a shiny Pokemon, you can kind of condense it down, and that's what we're going to be talking about. But first, I do want to talk about the idea of exploit. Just because you call something an exploit doesn't make it immediately illegal, forbidden. It's just kind of like a slang term that, yes, there are glitches and exploits that are against the rules and stuff like that, but at the same time, people will call something just a shortcut an exploit, something like this, what I'm doing right now. I'm going for 5-6 IV Dittos. I'm doing this Ditto grind right here, and it could almost be called an exploit, and a lot of people do call it an exploit, that you have the Memento Muck. So I just have to press A, and now I can farm through Dittos, get through the SOS battles, and since I have the Recycle Lepa Berry Smeargle, I never have to worry about them running out of PP. So a simplification of a process, or something that gives you a better intended result, is what people might classify as an exploit. And I think that's what's happened here, that this isn't a bad exploit. It's just something that people have found a shortcut to, and while it does play around with the game, it's not forbidden, that you can't go in the rules. This doesn't break terms of service. This is just some kind of like cheeky little thing that turns out to benefit you and can be used for shinies, that you still need to be doing the Masuda method, so that's a little bit of effort right there, and it doesn't guarantee you perfect shiny Pokemon. That effectively, it makes to where you're breeding normally, and then you just kind of end up with some shiny Pokemon that are of the species that you want instead. So let's go and see what else there is, because I was looking at some other posts. I was trying to really make sense of this. So TLDR, the RNG isn't actually random. I think that's a big thing, that when people are talking about shiny value manipulation and RNG manipulation, it sounds bad. It sounds like some kind of illegal, forbidden thing when it actually isn't. Like, this isn't actually random. It just tries to look that way. Thus, when you hatch some eggs, reset, and do it again, they'll be exactly the same. There are methods to prevent this, but it looks like Game Freak screwed up. And I think that that's kind of the difference between this and the time machine method, because there are different ways that it functions, and it actually plays out to where you can make it happen like this. So a simplification of this, because I'm not really super sure how it does, and this doesn't really interest me, that when I did that video about the 100% egg hatching, I never did that method, that I don't care about getting shiny Pokemon. I would just rather do things on my own. If I have to put in extra work to get shiny Pokemon, it doesn't really interest me, so I might get a couple of things wrong, but overall I found this post right here, and it's kind of like a simplification of it. Pretty much, it's the 12 easy steps. First, you need to save your game. Place Ditto equipped with a Destiny Knot in the nursery along with a Magikarp, and the reason why you want a Magikarp is because it hatches faster than any other Pokemon. So this is why it doesn't feel like an exploit. It's not like you're creating shiny Pokemon. It's not like you're modifying the eggs or the game or anything. It's just making it to where you're cycling through the potential shiny Pokemon faster, and then you just do the time machine method, and then it swaps out. Like, it's not really creating shinies, it's more of a swapping, that you're trading one shiny for another, and then that's how this method kind of plays out. And that's why I wanted to bring up a list of egg cycles, because some people are also considering this like a potentially 10 times faster method of obtaining shiny Pokemon, because when you look at the egg cycles, yeah, Magikarp is super fast, that you can hatch Magikarp almost every minute or so when you're doing the daycare method. I think some people have even found it to be faster than that. Now, one bit of clarification I wanted to add for this video is that it still works for like IV breeding and stuff like that, because you're effectively just swapping out the Magikarp, so you're hatching Magikarps faster, and then depending on the egg cycles and whatever, then you can go and bring in a new Pokemon, and then the stats from that Magikarp are effectively transferred or swapped into a new species. So if you see a 5 or 6 IV Pokemon, even if it isn't shiny, then you can kind of use that, the natures, the abilities, and whatever else is going on, and then transfer that into the desired Pokemon to to give the sense of speeding it up. Now, I did not use the time machine method in the 6th generation, and I'm probably not going to use it in the 7th generation either, because while it does sound like it's going to be exponentially faster, you still have to do a lot of things. Like, you need to do the parent swapping, you need to keep track of the eggs, and then by the time you're like moving around, hatching the Pokemon stuff, it doesn't necessarily become 10, 8 times, 6 times, 5 times faster for getting the perfect Pokemon that you want. It might be closer to 2 or 3 times faster. It might be a bit better if you're doing like max egg cycle Pokemon, but anything before that, it's not going to be like a hard capped improvement. So I don't think it's worth the effort for me. I'm pretty lazy, and if you have like a 5 IV Ditto anyways, you're going to get a competitive Pokemon in a reasonable amount of time. So that's kind of my thoughts on it, that yeah, it works out like that, and then we can go look a bit more into this. And then as you can see, it goes up from there. The next Pokemon take twice as long to hatch, and then so on and so forth until you start getting some crazy ones. And then there's like legendary Pokemon, which are effectively unobtainable with like these crazy egg numbers that don't really make sense. But then we get into some other ones, like people are talking about, yo, shiny Snorlax, that takes forever. Well, we can effectively make it like 8 times faster to get that shiny Snorlax. Some people are saying this is really good for Dragonite. Effectively the very rare Pokemon by Pokemon standards, you know, that we have these pseudo-legendary Pokemon, we have Pokemon like Snorlax, we have more rare and exclusive Pokemon, the Beldum, Pokemon like that, the Garchomp, the Gabite. Even though they're fairly accessible in-game, they are classified at a higher standard, like Alomomola, Pokemon like that, the Chansey. So just kind of giving you an idea of what this is good for, and then that means instead of having to hatch eggs at this rate, you're hatching them at the Magikarp rate, and then you're getting a shiny in the same amount of eggs, and that's kind of where these steps and processes come through. So remove a parent from the nursery in order to halt the egg spawns, then you hatch the eggs, and then if you don't get it, you repeat steps 1 through 5, you restart your game, and then you go for that. Now, one interesting thing about this is I think one of the oversights that's making this such a viable option for getting shiny Pokemon is that the amount, you can do 30 eggs at a time and then try to reset. You can go for these entire like swaths of eggs and then have a better chance. I believe with the time machine method, it was only 1 egg, that once you hatch the ideal Pokemon, we could effectively transfer those IVs into another Pokemon, and then that's kind of how you could work for competitive at a faster breeding rate or something like this. But at the same time, I don't think anyone really thinks that this is a glitch or an exploit, because this is how breeding has been for the last couple generations, or at least in the 6th generation, and you're trading a shiny for a shiny. Now, you are doing it at a faster rate. Now, I'm not saying it's always going to be like 8, 10 times faster or anything like that. So it's effectively just taking the same mechanics that we've known about for the last couple generations and adding on it, because we didn't expect that this was going to be possible for shiny Pokemon, and then just turned out, oh yeah, you just need the shiny charm, or you just need the Masuda method. So it's not super free either, and then you're just kind of trading shinies for other shinies, and that doesn't guarantee the IVs. That if you get a shiny Magikarp with crap IVs or a crap nature or something like that, well, then you do have to be weary of that. You have to know which nature is going into that Pokemon. So it's kind of like, instead of, you're just effectively doing the same thing at a slightly faster rate for exclusively shinies that may or may not be competitive. So it doesn't really break the game at all. But the way that people are talking about, yo, new shiny, new exploit, this is totally like a glitch, RNG things, it's not really like that. So I don't have anything against it. This actually doesn't break the rules at all. That's why I don't think there's anything wrong with my video. The problem is, when you start calling things exploits, everyone just jumps to like the most harsh conclusion of it. Like, for some reason, people got mad at me for my infinite bottle cap quote-unquote exploit, even though it's not an exploit, it's not a glitch, this isn't breaking the game, this is obtainable through normal gameplay means. And that's kind of like how the time machine method and all of these other methods kind of came about, that if you realize that you reset the game without saving and then your eggs turn out to be the same, something's going on there, and then you can explore it a bit more. With this bottle cap method, it was pretty much the same thing, that I added someone with a 2-star treasure hunt, and I got a bottle cap. And then I wanted to have all treasure hunts in my plaza, so I added like 5 places with treasure hunts, and I kept getting bottle caps, and then other people confirmed this, so it's not an exploit. Like, this is not unintended glitch game breaking things. And I got tons of comments from idiots like this, so let me get this straight. You bitch and moan for months on end about cheats and exploiters, but today you're endorsing it. It's not cheating, it's not even comparable. Also, I need to go and ban this guy right now, because just completely worthless, stupid comment right there, because yeah, it's not even comparable. This is what I mean on the 2 levels of exploit, that this isn't cheating, this isn't against the rules. If it's obtainable, and it's in the Pokemon rules, go through the terms of service, go through the VGC rules, go through anything like that. As long as it's obtainable through normal in-game means and like normal gameplay, then it's not really an exploit. It's not really a glitch, at least in the Pokemon's eyes. But you call it an exploit because that's what people look for. They look for those tricks, they look for those tips, and it sounds a lot more appealing when you say something like that. So a lot of people are promoting it as an exploit, but depending on the understanding is where you can make that judge call whether or not it's cheating. And especially in the case of the bottle caps and stuff, yeah, it was something that just happened naturally. Same with this, that while this did take a bit more digging and probably just a little bit of like code observation or data mining to really flesh it out, it doesn't take any external hardware or anything like that, or it doesn't take any external software. That one thing that really threw me off when it came to this like shiny hunting method, and also we can see this very long complicated page, that if you really want to get deep into it to get like the perfect shiny Pokemon with perfect inheritance and understanding everything about this, yeah, that's a little too technical to me. Because this video wasn't about applying the method and actually testing it, because I don't care about it. I'm just giving it for you guys, so if you guys want to use it, you sure can. But that kind of goes back to what this was about, that people were talking about it like it was the RNG method from 5th generation level, but RNG from 5th gen was actually against the rules. That required a lot of manipulation. That was a true exploit, because you had to run another program to get the right RNG seed. This is just something that happens through natural gameplay that you can kind of turn into a positive for yourself. So just kind of a breakdown as to what happens with exploits, how the game ends up working, and stuff like that. It's pretty cool in the end. If you want to utilize this, take some work, but then you end up with a shiny for it. Shinies are already, I wouldn't say easy, but the way that you can just kind of pop a gold bottle cap on a shiny, you know, there are more accessible competitive shinies out there in this generation, and because of that, I don't think this really takes away from that too much. Pokemon Company already did that enough with hyper training, which I'm still fairly against. So, hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.